Trey Hendrickson getting to the quarterback, something he's done a whole lot of. 35 sacks the last 2 years. That's 35 sacks. 17 and a half each of the last 2 seasons. Led the NFL in sacks for Cincinnati. Now, people sleep. He was at the Saints for 4 years before he was in Cincinnati for 4 years. But he was a really old rookie, and I didn't know that. So he is actually 30 years old. He'll turn 31 at the end of next season in December. So I actually would have thought he was 28, but I'm wrong. He's 30. He was a 23-year-old rookie.
Yeah, he had that breakout season his final year and his walk year with the Saints. And I think a lot of people were kind of going, yeah, okay, buddy. I'm sure that's not real. Cincinnati took a leap and were rewarded. 14, 8 down year, but 17 and a half each of the last 2 seasons. A whole mess of sacks for Cincinnati. 57 sacks over 4 years. That is cleaning up.
Now, he is due to become one of the highest paid pass rushers in the NFL. We just saw Max Crosby get an amount of money that obviously Trey Hendrickson is not going to get, but resetting the market to some extent for a guy who is rushing the quarterback off the edge. Hendrickson's made 4 straight Pro Bowls. He finally made first team All-Pro. He finished second in the Defensive Player of the Year chase with Crosby not 100% healthy, ahead of him this past season. And he hit the quarterback 36 times. 36 is a ridiculous number. I'm going to give you guys just a couple of comps so that you can make that work in your head. Dante Fowler, the best pass rusher here, who had 10 and a half sacks, had 14 hits on the quarterback this year. Dorrance Armstrong, who Washington paid about $10 million a year to come in from Dallas to be their top defensive end this year, had 14 hits on the quarterback. Trey Hendrickson this past season hit the quarterback 36 times.
So those are,
basically like the combined total of Washington's, 4 rushers.
And that's what I usually consider. So one of the things that I look at an awful lot when we talk about pass rushing is quarterback hits, because that means, are you in the neighborhood? And whether you got the sack or not, the process was there. You beat your guy, you're in the backfield, you touch the quarterback. Sometimes it's an extra beat and he holds the ball and you get a sack. Other times you go, what's wrong with John Allen? Why didn't he only have 3 sacks? Well, to get 20-some quarterback hits that year, you replay it again, he'd have 8 or 9, and that's what happens the following year. So usually you look at some of the league leaders and they're in the mid-20s. This year he would have led the NFL in almost any other season, but Zach Allen in Denver had 40 quarterback hits, which is astounding, which is ridiculous for a guy, again, that only had 8.5 sacks. So the point of the dude's story is this is a consistent winning pass rusher. Not quite on the level of that Myles Garrett, even Max Crosby. Every play is ruining everything for you, but as consistent and workmanlike a technician as they come, like that is an effective pass rusher that I was always wondering the whole time. When we're trying to do a long-term deal for Jamar Chase, we really want to do a long-term deal for T. Higgins. How are they going to pay everybody? I think here's the answer. They're not.
Yeah, I use PFF for counting stats, pressures, and things like that more than anything else. Their grades can be helpful, but are subjective. And so when you start talking about those, I think sometimes people start covering their ears and don't want to hear what you have to say. But I love the counting stats on pressures, and this guy has lived among the top of the league for the last couple of seasons. Now, 30 is probably the new 28 in terms of available players and age, in the sense that at that position, you can age pretty well. We've seen guys like Bruce Smith or, Reggie White or others, play deep into their 30s and have some success. I don't think it's the end of the world, like we talked about, if Joey Bosa had a more healthful history, or even Khalil Mack, who had a 17-sack season at 32 or 33. It's not crazy to see a guy have a really strong season with production into his 30s. So Hendrickson is someone I would be interested in, but this is big game hunting. This would cost draft picks. This would cost a massive cap number. This would be your move of the offseason and maybe your move of a couple of off seasons. And do you want to put all those eggs in that basket? Again, 35 sacks over 2 years ain't nothing. You want to look for a 17.5 sack season in Washington's history? You're going all the way back to Dexter Manley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those numbers don't exist in this organization's modern history. Nobody's done it. So he's the real deal. He's a great player. And it's not like it's just sacks, as we're pointing out. It's TFLs. He had 35 the last 2 years. It's hitting the quarterback.
Pressures,
it's
the whole
constant
thing.
pressures. Yeah. Like, he is a real, legitimate pass rusher. You look at total pressures this past season. He was not at the top of the board among the edges, but he was right there below the number 1 spot. So, yeah, I Color me very intrigued, Danny.
Yeah, Pro Football Reference, for example, has him at number 1. Pro Football Focus might have him at 2 or 3. The point is, that's the company he's in. Effective pass rusher. There's no other way around that, right?
Jared Verse of the Rams, 1 at 89. Jonathan Grenard of the Vikings, 84. Trey Hendrickson, 3rd, 83. Same as Myles Garrett in terms of the number of times he pressured the quarterback. I want to dive in and try to find in the break here how often he's doubled and chipped, because while Sam Hubbard, who just retired, was a really good D tackle, he was a little bit of a one-man wrecking crew in terms of all-pro talent on that defensive front. They've brought in DJ Reader, and they've had some different guys over the years that have come and gone. But for the most part, I would imagine he's getting to work occasionally against some doubles and getting chipped.
You think so?
And he's still putting up those numbers, which is the sign of a pretty elite player.
Yeah, and this is, again, an offense and a team that was behind a lot. They were losing and slinging it and throwing it all over the place, and they couldn't stop anybody. And you want to blame him for that, as they had a hand in a bad defense. Sure, I'm happy to have that conversation too. But you're think about how many times you're trailing and teams are running on you, and you're still putting up those kind of pass rushing totals. That's usually reserved to me for like that Dwight Freeney role, where Dwight, do not play the run. We don't care. We're going to have a lead, and they're going to be throwing it, get after the quarterback, and you can just get upfield most of the time. That's usually what you have to do to get to 17.5 sacks. You can play honest and play straight and play true and get 10 if you're pretty good, but to get to 17.5, you usually have to cheat the process a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to stay at home on this run. I might bite on this play fake because the next time I'll be upfield and I'll be able to, to make the tackle in the backfield. You don't have to play his assignment sound, but to be at 17.5, given the fact that they're probably trailing a whole bunch and teams are running, that's even more impressive to me.
Trey Hendrickson's going to want to get paid. This is why he's become available and why the report is that the Bengals are telling him to go get money, because they just tagged T. Higgins, who they're keeping around at an expensive rate. It's the second tag, so it's 120% of what he got last year. And they got to sign Chase. They can't pay Chase long-term and tag Higgins with Burrow already having broken the bank, and also pay Hendrickson. So they're also a little bit of a fun experiment here, in my opinion, in terms of paying all of their guys on offense and appeasing their quarterback, who says, I'm not choosing between my two favorite receivers. You're keeping both of them. Because Burrow came out, and I mean, he really took it to the front office publicly in a press conference and said, prove it to me. Show me how serious you are. I want Higgins and I want Chase to stay. And the easy follow-up is, so you don't want Trey Hendrickson then, right? Or is that what you're saying?
Is that what you're saying?
The defensive end with the 17.5 sacks? But you can't pay everybody. That's where they are. This past year, 1 year, $21 million was basically what he signed. So he, as an extension, so he's now on the books for $18.6 million this season. I'd have to look into if he was traded, what the cap number would be. But no wonder why that guy wants to get paid. He just watched Max Crosby get what he got.
That might have been an accelerant, you would think.
And he's making less than $19 million with 1 year left on his deal. In terms of guaranteed money, he's going, hey, agent,
hello,
we need to go get $100+ million and guarantee $55 million of it to me right here and right now. Bengals said no, fine, then we'll go somewhere else.
You are Grant Peters, great jawline, incredible hair. You look awesome on camera. You've already answered questions. You've told every reporter that's a great question. Use their first name every time because you have a high EQ. Somebody in private asks you, hey, Grant Peters, come on, man. How far are you willing to go to sign Trey Hendrickson? What's the max deal you'd offer? Best and final. What is it?
Contract-wise?
Contract-wise.
I mean, I would make him one of the highest paid defensive ends in the NFL.
Can there be a 3 in front of it to start? AAV?
Sure. I don't think there would be. I don't think I would do that. But, I mean, if that's what it takes, yeah, go get a great football player. Here's what's interesting. We keep talking about age. And, like, Joey Bosa is basically the same age as him, and I'm going, he's old. Well, he gets hurt all the time. Hendrickson's been healthy. But because the cap keeps going up and up and up and up and up, teams are not allowing these free agents to walk to the same extent. So a lot of times when guys shake free, it's in this way. It's they're now available for trade because I've paid too many guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not after their first contract at 26 years old anymore. So we will have to recalibrate a little bit of normalcy in terms of like what you expect from the age of a player coming in here. If you're looking for a 26-year-old who can get you 14 sacks, that guy's probably not coming available in this era of football. It's probably going to be a 30-year-old, or there's going to be some baggage. I can get you 12 sacks, but I'm coming off an ACL. I can get you 14 sacks, but I can't play the run. I can get you 13 sacks, but I've only played 9 games in the last 2 years. That kind of stuff is going to be happening more and more and more.
I think so.
Because teams are just not letting their own guys walk.
Especially at premium spots, right? That's the, obviously, quarterback, but then you go wide out, offensive tackle, defensive end / pass rusher, havoc wreaker, and to a degree cornerback. Although the cornerback market's pretty decent this year. But this is one of the premium ones. I mean, just look at how these guys have gotten paid over the years. Max Crosby just signed the richest non-quarterback deal in sports history, or not sports, football history. So there you go. I mean, that's the new paradigm. So you've got it. Something exceptional has to happen, and in this case, it looks like it has with Burrow, Higgins, and Chase. That's your triumvirate. So they're gonna have to figure out a way to build the team, probably without some of these other high-priced stars that might be on the market here before too long.
Here's what I would do. I would offer him a 4-year extension at $26 million a year, $104 million, and I think that would get it done. That's what Montez Sweat was looking for, if you remember. And because he's not in his 27, 28 seasons, you're 30. You're going to turn 31 this football season. I think a 4-year deal with that kind of money, $104 million, and I'd be willing possibly to guarantee him the first 3 years of the deal or close to it. Like instead of just
you're like a $75 million in guarantees.
Yeah, instead of like $52 million, I'll guarantee you close to 70, like a 65, 67 million, so that you're going to probably be here for 3 years. I don't know why that wouldn't get it done. I would go for at 27 if I had to, 28 million. My ceiling's probably 28. Like you say, would I do 30? No, probably not. I don't think I would need to. But in the 25 to 27 range, I think is the sweet spot. And if the market's really rich, because Max Crosby might have just ruined everything for everybody, okay, maybe 26, 28, something like that. But I'd try to avoid $30 million a year. But you got to take advantage of this quarterback. Who was it that said that to us yesterday? Was it Charles Davis? I think it was CD at the end of the show yesterday when we were asking him about wide receivers. Hey, they've got Debo in the fold now. Would you keep pushing? Do you think they need another wideout? He's like, yeah, of course. Do what you can. You got the quarterback, man. Go try to win a title. And by the way, we keep asking this old, young, like what should they be looking for? Are we okay with it? They don't seem to really go young in free agency. The monster under the bed here a little bit. What's a better reference than that? The scary thing nobody talks about, I think sometimes with this team, there's not that much really, really good young talent. Because of how bad the drafts were.
This is the point that I'm hammering, yeah.
I'm not going full house of cards here, okay? But you have built this thing. It's kind of a papier-mâché build that Jaden Daniels is like holding up with his arms and legs in all directions. And if he is Mahomes, Burrow, one of those guys, Allen, Lamar, then nothing matters and you'll just be good every year and no one needs to. We could just stop doing the show. Let's talk about the Caps or the Nats because they're always going to be good. But the young talent, when you compare it to the Green Bays and the Detroits and the Minnesotas, I'm thinking playoff teams from last year, and Philly or whoever, it's not the same.
No, it's not.
So do you try to go solidify that, which is a multi-year project, or do you just push some chips in a little bit and go, we accidentally got here. Let's just keep going this direction until the bottom falls out.
Yeah, this is kind of the drum I've been beating, I would say, when some of these more veteran guys come up. And I don't want to all the time just go, oh, he's 33, bring him over. You don't want to just keep doing that because, as you said, it's a hamster wheel, kind of a dead-end road for a short-term thing. It's by its nature short-term when you sign someone to a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal or whatever. But that's point one. But then column two is the window is open. I have so little young talent already in-house.
Thanks, Ron.
I've got to fill it somewhere. And all the Martys fared thee well. I hope you get great gigs. But just stop influencing who's on my roster, please and thank you.
Let's look for young stars other than Daniels on this football team. I'm rattling off the starters on the depth chart. McLaurin, Samuel, Zacchaeus, Coleman, Allegretti, Biotish, Cosme, Wiley, Ertz, Daniels, B-Rob. I mean, Daniels is the only one on offense. Young is what? Sub 27? 26 isn't young, but I'd even grant that at this point. That's like going into your second contract age. I'm not putting Cosme on that list after last year coming off an ACL. Are you?
No.
Like if we're talking studs, he's good. I don't know if he's a stud. Fowler, Payne, Allen, Armstrong, Louvu. I'll kick Allen off and put Newton in, who I like, but isn't on that level yet. Louvu's really, really good. I would say he's a stud. He's not young. You know how old Frankie Louvu is?
28.
I'll take the over on that. What's Frankie's age, right? He turns 29 this season, I guess, right? I mean, that's not a young stud. Igbenogany, Lattimore, Quan Martin is a really good player at safety. Stud? I don't think so.
Nice player. But the point stands.
So Jaden Daniels is, how about Sandra still?
There you go.
I'll give you Mikey Sandra still as a true linchpin, building block, standout young kid on his first contract. That's 2. Are we missing anybody?
No. Nobody that you'd go star. I mean, they have players that fit that bill, but that's kind of the point here is you need that. And let's get that. Everyone should be in favor of finding that. But you only have so many draft selections. There's only so many free agents. And your point about guys, leaking free at 25, 26 in the prime of their careers and being a dramatic talent upgrade, I don't know how many of those guys they're going to be at premium spots.